What's up, everybody? Tori McElhaney here, and I'm so excited to introduce you to new Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator, Jimmy Lake. Jimmy, thank you so much for coming in, sitting down with us, talking to us about kind of what your vision is for this defense. But before we get into all of that, I actually want to go back in time a bit to, let's say, 2007.
Oh, okay.
All the way back. That is when you and Raheem Morris first began working together, coaching the DBs at Tampa Bay. What was it about y'all's relationship right off the bat where you felt like, this is someone who I click with, this is a guy who I really like?
Yeah, no, it's actually an interesting story. So in 2006, I was hired with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I was the assistant defensive back coach, and there was a lead DB coach in front of me. Raheem had left to go be the defensive coordinator for Kansas State, and then he quickly was like, okay, this college stuff is not for me. I'm going to go back to the NFL. So our lead DB coach was fired after the 2006 season, and of course, me being the competitor that I am, and I was like, hey, I want this job. I want to be the lead DB coach. And Raheem Morris was hired, and I had never met Raheem before. Of course, I was disappointed. I wanted to, I'm ready to run this thing. And the first day he came into the office, he came right in, his big smile, his energy. He's like, hey, I'm Raheem Morris. Nice to meet you, Jimmy. I know that you wanted this job, but we're going to do this thing together, and let's go have some fun with it. And I tell you what, right there, the way he handled that and the way he showed me the ropes of how, because he was already a long-time NFL assistant, and he kind of showed me the ropes of how him and Mike Tomlin had ran the room for all those years since the Super Bowl in '02. I can't thank him enough for him taking me under his wing. And so that was my first interaction with him, and I knew right away that we were going to be great friends and also have a great bond as football coaches.
Now here we are almost 2 decades later, which is kind of probably crazy to think about. How has your relationship, not just like personally, but professionally, evolved with Raheem since those days?
Yeah, so early on, so right out in that '07 season, we would watch film together, and right away we clicked. We see the game in a very similar lens. In this football world, there's other coaches that they may see it different. They think a technique needs to be done this way, a coverage needs to be done this way, or they see routes differently on offense or a run game on offense. And we quickly learned that we saw the game very, very similar. And so from there, we just grew, and we'd always throw ideas at each other. We would do new things, and it would be successful on the football field, and then we'd watch other NFL clubs, and they would mimic things that we were doing. And so that's when we knew we were on the cutting edge. So it's been a friendship off the field, and it's been a really humongous growth on the field in the football world with us putting our brains together.
When you talk about we see the game similarly, what do you mean by that when you say that?
Yeah, so let's say we're breaking down the New Orleans Saints, for instance, and as we're watching maybe their play action pass, and we start going through what we feel the offense is trying to get done, we'll come to the same conclusion. And then we'll write down our ideas of how we're going to stop that certain route that's also matched up with that run, and we'll come down to the same conclusion. And so, if you just put in a room of 15 coaches, you might have 14 different answers. And there's a lot of times Raheem and I see the same lens of how we're supposed to stop an opponent.
It's really interesting. When Raheem came in his introductory press conference, he said, I really want to empower Jimmy to be the front man of this defense. And we know Raheem's a defensive guy. You've worked with him. But what was it about the opportunity to come to Atlanta, be able to put the headset back on and be a play caller here that really intrigued you and excited you about the opportunity in front of you?
Yeah, first I'll go way back to my when I first started coaching. I was a undergrad assistant at Eastern Washington in 1999. And when I started my coaching career, I got my first DB job in the year 2000. My goal was to be a defensive coordinator in the National Football League. And so I'll say that right now. This is what I've been researching, planning for since 1999. And for it to finally be here, I can't be more joyous and more excited, and just chomping at the bit to get started, which we've already started here in the last couple of weeks. And so now that I look at the Atlanta Falcons and I start watching our team from 2023, you can see a really good base of the mentality of how you're supposed to play this game. This game needs to be played violent. It needs to be played fast with proper fundamentals, how to get off blocks, how to tackle, how to cover, and how to rush the passer. And you could see the defense last year, there was a lot of positives. One of the reasons why we kept our defensive back coach, Jerry Gray, our senior assistant, Dave Huxtable. They were huge contributors to the defense last year. And now, we're currently in the lab, working on some things and some tweaks, and then bring in, our identity of things that we've experienced in our past that'll help us take it to the next level.
Yeah, let's get into this unit a little bit. This is a unit that from 2022 to 2023 took one of the biggest statistical upticks of any defensive unit in the league from one year to the next, whether it be run stopping, sacks, total defense, you name it. What was it about this defense that you saw in 2023, and how do you, as a defensive coordinator coming in, not only sustain the successful parts of what this defense was in 23 into 24, but build upon that?
Yeah, and again, if you just look at it, from a aerial view, just watching it without watching individual players, you see that this outfit they played hard, they played physical, and it's funny. You have to have the players, number one. But if you don't have players that have mentality that want to run to the football and tackle and get off blocks and play with that edge, you're never gonna play great defensively. And that's initially right what I saw. Right when I turned on the film, I was hired. I start watching. We didn't have a lot of crossover with Atlanta this year when we were coaching for the LA Rams, so we didn't really run into watching Atlanta's defense. And so when we started watching it, I was like, wow, these guys are playing hard. They're playing the way this game's supposed to be played, and you can work with something like that. And then you throw in there some playmakers like Jesse Bates III. Now you're cooking with gas. And so I am so excited to work with these guys. Of course, we're going to add some pieces, and then the pieces that are already in place, we're going to try to get the best out of their games and put them in position to make plays. It always starts with the players, and then we can add a little scheme, a little edge, and that'll take us over the top.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to the individual pieces of this group, you brought up Jesse Bates III. We can talk about A.J. Terrell. But I'm really curious, Raheem Morris has coached Grady Jarrett before. This is somebody who's coming into year 10. What has Raheem told you about Grady Jarrett and the opportunity to get to coach him?
Well, first, he said you're going to love the human being. That's all he said. The tape speaks for itself. You see the tenacity that he plays with. You see the knockoff that he gets on run blocks. You see the pass rush that he gives to the interior rush. I'm excited to work with him, and the proof is in the pudding of what he's done in this last decade of football, like you just mentioned. And we're really just excited to put some other things around him to make him shine even brighter.
Mm-hmm. You talk about the edge that you want this defense to play with. What are some other qualities that you're really looking to enhance over the course of OTAs? We get into mini camp, then training camp before you get into this season.
Yeah, it's going to probably sound a little boring, but it's really comes back to fundamentals. Mm-hmm. Playing defensive football is it gets down to the bare minimum of fundamentals that these guys learned when they played back in grade school. And so, we're going to talk about angles to the football. Mm-hmm. And these guys will love it because I see how they play, and they're going to want to hear this. And when we take proper angles of the football, if you're an inside-out pursuit or outside-in pursuit, or you're supposed to be over the top or underneath, and you can trust your brother that he's going to be where he's supposed to be, and in return you can trust your brother where he's supposed to be, now we can play fast. And we want our defense to play fast, free, and physical. We got to make sure our calls are nice and concise so these guys can digest it and they can just let their talents go shine. And as long as we're adding those pieces of players that are physical and want to get off blocks and want to rally to the football 100% of the time, we'll be taking that next step.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit before we wrap up just about how you and Raheem, because he is a defensive guy, he's been calling the defensive plays for the last 3 seasons. How will you two work together? What will that dynamic look like, and kind of how do you take what you've learned from working together in the past to where you are now?
Yeah, it's always been a collaborative effort between both of us. His last 2 years in Tampa, there was no named defensive coordinator, but Raheem and I took the workload of that in 2010 when we won 10 games, and then 2011 his last year. And it's always been a collaborative effort. Now moving forward 13 or whatever it is now, 13, 14 years later, I know Raheem wants to take more responsibility of the totality of all three phases and the whole team. And that's where he's given me the keys to be the defensive coordinator and call the plays and come up with a game plan to stop opponents. But I know Raheem's always going to be around and going, hey, what about this? What about this? And I love ideas.
Yeah.
Our first defensive staff meeting I had yesterday with the rest of my defensive staff, I said, hey, I love ideas. Let's bring all those ideas to the table. And we'll get these up on the board and work them all out, and the ones that make it. And if it comes from the DB coach, the D-line coach, the linebacker coach, we're all in this thing together. So it's really going to be a collaborative effort.
Going back to what you were talking about, how this is a goal, a dream that you've had since 1999, how are you, maybe even the same guy that you were in 1999, dreaming about that opportunity, to now being the guy sitting here in 2024, having a conversation about reaching that goal?
Yeah, extremely proud. My wife Michelle and my kids have seen the journey. It's cool to get all the messages from them and the hugs from them to see that my dream has finally been realized. But I'm completely different from 1999 till now. A lot of growth and personal growth, and professional growth. Been in a lot of different seats, from defensive coordinator in college, head coach in college. And position coaches at the NFL level in college, but yearly, just always preparing for this moment, what I wanted this defense to look like, and I'm extremely excited, and I can't wait for the Atlanta Falcon fans to watch what this defense is going to look like when we have opening day in September.
To that end, we'll wrap on this. What can Falcons fans expect from this defensive unit in 2024? I know y'all got a lot of work that y'all still want to do, bring in some different guys with this
sure.
unit, but as we're sitting here right now, what's kind of that expectation?
Yeah, what I would want them to see, and what I'd expect them to see, but we want. I'm on to talk about. I want this to actually happen. But what we're going to preach is these guys are going to play fast, and so obviously have to play our players that already have that speed and that knack to get to the ball, but also add some speed to the defense at all three levels, from the D-line to linebackers, defense backs. But then we want them to play free. And what I mean by that is they need to be able to get the call, digest it, and they need to go. We can't have guys out there slow thinking and reacting slow to their reads and their keys. And then the last thing is they got to play physical. And so, hopefully as the first game's a home game, I would like our fans to see our defense play fast, free, physical, and then with the all-out goal is to get the ball back. We're trying to get the ball back for the offense. Hopefully we can score first, and then our extra point team can go out there and kick. But if we can do that, we want to get the ball back for our offense, whether that be a fumble, an interception, or stop on 4 downs.
Love it. I'm excited about it, and I'm sure Falcons fans are excited as well. Thank you so much for joining me, and let me be the first of many to welcome you to Atlanta.
Thank you so much.